All right, I'm sending live.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the XBE Thrive. This is the Power of Certification, and it's sponsored by the Diversity Consortium. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we go ahead and get started. We're using Microsoft Teams today, and you'll notice that you've got a toolbar up at the top or maybe on your side, and you have a couple features in here. You won't be able to speak directly as we have a lot of folks on the line today, but if you have questions, you're going to see that little chat button up in the that little circle with the point there. You could go ahead and enter in your question right there. We're also going to use that box when we ask any survey questions and things like that. And feel free to raise your hand. We've got some folks that are monitoring what's happening behind the scenes. To give you a little bit of background about the Diversity Consortium, our purpose and our mission is to make a measurable difference in the supplier diversity landscape. What that means to us is, first and foremost, we're looking to help what we're going to call XBEs. Those are all forms of disadvantaged businesses, diverse businesses, help them succeed, thrive, and match them with corporations, business entities, governments that are looking to find organizations like yourselves, the XBEs. So that's really our mission. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the power of certification. The Diversity Consortium itself is made up of 25 companies. So what we've done is we've partnered with the best of the best. And these are folks that provide all sorts of services, from strategy and onboarding down to mentoring, coaching, training, and capital. Everything you could think of that a corporation or a business, a diverse business, might need around any kind of service around supplier diversity. Specifically today, we're going to talk about certification, and this is powered by our partners. We're going to have Heather from Certify My Company. We're going to have Liz from Diversity Masterminds, and Dick from the 8A Authority are all going to join us today and help us understand what it is about certification. Why is it so challenging? Do I really need it? And what are some of the benefits if I go ahead and do become certified? Why should I invest my time and my money into doing so? And they're going to tell you all about that. So with that, I'm going to bring us the power of certification. Heather, are you on the line today? Heather is having just a few technical difficulties.
No, I'm here. I just was muted. I just couldn't do it in my studio. Sorry.
No trouble. You want to just tell us briefly about Certify My Company?
Yeah, am I unmuted? Am I muted still?
No, you're good.
Okay, good. So Certify My Company is we are the experts in diversity certification across the country. We work directly with entrepreneurs and suppliers to help them figure out the best certification or certifications for them and their company, because you could spend your whole life and your whole bank account getting certified. It is not the strategy we recommend. So we want to make sure you're picking the best certifications that will give you the biggest bang for your buck. And we also work directly with the Fortune 1000 to make sure everyone in their supply chain that should be certified is certified.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Liz, are you with us?
Oh, she's muted.
I'm also muted. I am here.
No trouble. Tell us a little bit about Diversity Masterminds, please.
So Diversity Masterminds is all about helping you get that bang for your buck that Heather mentioned with certification. So we work with certified diverse businesses to help them master their certification to grow their business. We know how a lot of people get certified and they are like, all right, nah, nothing happened. I didn't get anything out of it. And so we make sure that you are not one of those people. And we also work with corporations to offer diverse suppliers in their supply chains this kind of intelligence about how to make the most of it.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. And Dick, are you there?
I'm here, so can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can. Please tell us about the 8A Authority.
The 8A Authority is an offshoot of the $250 million 8A certified firm that I owned in the last century. We have done over 60,000 successful 8A and other certifications. We focus on, obviously, women, minorities, and service-disabled veterans as our target audience. We do all of the certifications. We focus on 8A because that we find is the most lucrative of all of the certifications that exist today. It's unfortunately also the hardest one to get. And so we like to work on hard issues. And our objective is to get people certified, get them contracts, and when they get old and gray like me, sell the companies off for millions of dollars.
I love it. I love it. Well, now that we've introduced the three of you, let's learn a little bit about our audience. So if you could go ahead and use that chat feature that we were just describing, if you could tell us just briefly if you are certified, or if you've been trying to or thinking about being certified, what are the kinds of certifications that you're thinking about or working towards, or maybe you just have decided, it hadn't been right for you yet, but now you'd like to learn a little bit more. So just go ahead and type in there. And what we're going to do is while you're typing, again, these are our panelists. This is Heather Cox from Certify My Company, Liz Whitehead from Diversity Masterminds, Dick Otero from the 8A Authority. And again, I'm Rob Travia. And we are going to go ahead and talk today about who are exactly diverse suppliers and why we call them XBEs. And I hope I explained that. It's because it's an all-inclusive term. Why you should consider getting certified. And is it right for you? What are really the benefits? Tell me about the myths. I hear all these things. I hear that I can't get this or I can't get that, or I make too much money so I can't apply. Tell me what the rules are and help me understand that criteria and the process around certification. This is also a great opportunity. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in. We're going to ask for them at the end and we're going to answer them for you. But if you got any questions, you got the best panel possible on the line right now to answer for you. So really exciting. Go ahead and type them in there. So with that, Heather, can you tell us a little bit about the diverse business categories? I hear all sorts of acronyms and letters, and what does this all mean?
Oh, there are a plethora of acronyms out there for sure. So we'll talk about, there's 5 main categories of diversity certification. And then I'll kind of touch on the last one, which is more of Dick's expertise over there. So the 5 main ones are the women's business enterprise, the ethnic minority business enterprise, which is Black, Hispanic, Asian, the Pacific, Asian, Indian, and Native American. Then there is LGBTBE, which means you are a member of the LGBTQ community that owns, operates, and controls the company. Then there is the veteran, and the veteran for our purposes encompasses both service disabled and non-service disabled veterans. And then the last is the disability owned business enterprise, which is probably the most underknown because it really covers anything that the ADA has identified as a disability. And we can get into that more a little bit later.
Awesome. And, I hear a lot about these organizations, but from the Diversity Consortium perspective, I just want to share with you all that we get asked all the time from corporations, from organizations, from governmental bodies that they're looking for XBE businesses. But when I look at these organizations, and we love these organizations, unfortunately, not everybody has yet seen the need or the value or has actually gotten their businesses certified. So what's happening there?
Well, really, I think it's a lot of people. First of all, none of these organizations have the best PR, right? That people don't know about them. When I speak at entrepreneurial events, I'm always surprised when people don't know about the various certification organizations. I will say sometimes people will say to me, Heather, I need to get WBE certified. And I say, okay, great. Do you have an organization in mind? And they're like, the WBE. But that's like saying tissues versus Kleenex versus, right? So WBE simply just means you're a woman business enterprise. That's not the certification name. So what we're talking about here is what we call the Big 5, which is the 5 organizations that are part of the $1 billion roundtable. And the reason that we are probably talking about them more, because there are, as I said before, a plethora of certification options, whether it be state, local, federal, city, etc. Is that because these are the ones that the corporations tend to favor, the Big 5. Doesn't mean they're the only ones out there. It doesn't mean they're the best for your business. That's why it's so crucial to speak to somebody on my team or somebody like us that can really help you figure out if this is the best one for you. If you only want to sell to the state of New York, first of all, I'm really sorry, but if you only want to sell to the state of New York, then you need the Empire State certification. These other ones won't really help you out. So you really have to know which certification you need for your business.
Boy, are there a lot of choices.
There are.
Yeah, so just looking at this list, I see all sorts of names of bodies, and do each one of these offer certification?
No, that's a great question. They don't all so for example, like Ability One is not actually a supplier diversity certification. That's more for your DEI, your internal groups, right? Your internal employees. CVE is no longer the one in the middle right next to the Ability One is no longer. They've discontinued that organization. The Minority Business Development Agency, the MBDAs, they help companies with some of these certifications, and it's a great option for really small businesses who have the time to do the certification themselves, but just need like a little bit of help. They will help you facilitate, but they don't actually do the certifications. They don't actually give, facilitate the actual certification. They can just help you process the application.
So it looks
ahead,
like
sorry.
there's lots and lots of choices. And so do I understand these are the most common ones?
Those are the most common, absolutely. Those are it. Looking through that list, they look great to me. Those are the most common for sure.
Awesome. Well, having this understanding of what's out there, tell me about the role of the supplier diversity manager, in an organization. What does that mean? Liz, could you help me out here?
Sure. So now we know about the broad scope of certifications and why you might need help figuring out what's good for you. And then like, what is supplier diversity? Like why get certified? One of the reasons is that, Heather mentioned the Fortune 1000 companies. Many of them have goals for doing business with companies like yours. So, and once you get certified, that's just the start. With those goals that they also have programs which are run by supplier diversity people. But people have a lot of myths about what supplier diversity can do for you. And I think this is a really common one where people think, okay, I'm going to send an email to I'm certified. I'm going to send an email to the supplier diversity manager. They're going to connect me to the quote unquote decision maker. And then I'm going to get business, and that's how it works. Whereas the reality is more like this, where you're sending your email to a desk where someone probably isn't even sitting. They have tons of unread emails. Back when they were traveling, and actually they're traveling again now. I was just at a conference with some supplier diversity people. They're traveling to conferences. They're working on procurement for a product or service that has nothing to do with yours. So that's not even top of mind. And so what you really need to make that person an advocate for you is to have a plan and a plan for sustained follow-up so you can keep that going.
Oh, wow. Now that makes a lot of sense. Now I understand why, people seem so frustrated. They send in emails and they say, I tried to contact, but I didn't get any response.
Yep.
So tell me about the opportunities.
Okay, I'm actually going to kick it over to Heather to talk about some of these. I will run through it, but Heather, I want you to talk about pitch competitions when I come to that.
I'm sure you do.
So basically, what do you have? Events and conferences, I think, is the most common one, and that's what people really think about. Like, all right, I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to go to a conference, meet supplier diversity people network. They're familiar with that. But what they don't realize is there's a whole other bunch of opportunities that can help you with the sustained follow-up that I mentioned. It can help you maintain those points of contact. At some of those events and conferences, there might be matchmaking events. For example, the one I just went to in Florida had matchmaking, and they did it really well, I thought, because they had matchmaking before the event virtually and then matchmaking afterwards. So you could actually, that's part of your sustained follow-up. So that was really great. And in what makes matchmaking different than like a regular meeting is that the corporations have looked at your profile and determined that there might be an opportunity for you. There's also scholarships. There's executive programs to go to Tuck, Business School Dartmouth, or Kellogg, or take advantage of a lot of different programs that'll help your business. There's also scholarships that are offered by individual corporations. Again, it's a great way to get to know them. And they often have often have programs like on what I call on campus. Now they've been mostly virtual, but they have programs to get to know the individual company that you want to do business with. And then there's opportunities for visibility. So I'm going to kick it over to Heather. Can you talk about your experience with the pitch competition?
Absolutely. So the last live WeBank, which is the Women's Business Enterprise National Conference, live conference they had back in the good old days of live conferences, was they had a pitch competition, which you had to enter, and I think it was 188 people were chosen for round one to be part of round one. Maybe it was 100 people. I don't know. It was a decent sized crowd, right? But the cool part is that, so I was really interested in seeing what all the quote unquote competition was doing, when in reality, you're really your only competition, right? When you're doing a pitch competition. But I want to see what everybody else was talking about, was pitching. So I sat in the audience most of the day until it was my turn to do my pitch. And in that audience, I noticed that there was a row of corporate representatives behind me and a row of other women-owned businesses in front of me. And throughout the day, I would hear both the corporations say things like, wow, we should really talk to them afterwards. That's such a cool business, right? Oh, can you go get their contact information afterwards? I'd love to chat with them. That'd be great for our XYZ part of our company. And then the people in front of us, the other women-owned businesses, were like, well, we could really partner with them. That's a great synergistic opportunity for us. And this happened over and over again throughout the day. So just by getting on stage and saying, hi, my name is Heather Cox. I'm president and co-founder of Certify My Company, get your name and your company name out there. So even if you stink at pitches, even if you can't even stand the thought of getting on stage and you just feel so vulnerable, it doesn't matter. You just have to do it, because it's really an unbelievable way to get your name out of there. Well, round two was weeded down to 20 people. And yes, I did make the second round of the pitch competition. Now this round, you have a whole other selection of corporate judges that were judging it. So now a whole new group of corporations were there to listen to you. But this was in front of about 800 people, because it was during the lunch break during the trade fair. That meant that 800 people, or at least a good few hundred at any given time, were hearing your name and your company name. And after that competition, I actually got an email from a large corporation who said, hey, we heard your pitch. I'd love to speak with you about it. This was not necessarily someone who was on my target list for that conference, but it really opened up a whole new opportunity. Now, I didn't make it to the final round, but just being part of that first and second round really gives you a ton of exposure, which is exactly what we want as entrepreneurs, is exposure and people to know who we are. And people would say oh, weren't you in the pitch competition? It was kind of a way to start conversations throughout the conference.
Yeah.
Wow, great idea.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So tell me about the takeaways. What does this all mean?
Okay. So now this is a ton of information that's available for certified businesses. And now it's out there. So you also have an opportunity to identify upcoming opportunities for connections and visibility in the network. So if you are certified and you haven't taken advantage of it yet, you haven't attended an event, you're like, what's this matchmaking? I haven't gotten to do it. I encourage you to look for those opportunities and connections. Actually read the emails. There's a ton of them, but read the emails that come in and take a look at that. And then also, I mentioned at the matchmaking that they're looking at your profile for corporate members. Review and update your profile. If a lot of people, and if you use Certify My Company, this is not you, this didn't happen to you, because they make sure that this is taken care of. But a lot of people just fill out the application and then forget it. There's this is an application, there's spelling errors, they're just trying to get it done as quickly as possible. Well, when you're looking at events, that's actually your profile that corporate members are going to use to search for you and find you. So you want to make sure that's all up to date. And then we recommend, I always like to give people a takeaway when we do this, something concrete you can write down, and it's just one step. So find on your regional website, if you are certified, you went through a regional organization to get that certification. Look at your regional website or the national website and identify 3 opportunities that you'd like to participate in, and include the dates and the deadlines for when you have to apply. And that'll be a good start for you to start making the most of these opportunities.
You know, that's a great idea. Put it on your calendar and just drive yourself to do it because there's such wonderful opportunity out there. And Heather and Liz, thank you so much. You guys have done an awesome job describing what I'll call the third party certification process and some of the benefits of that. I'd love to hear about the 8A side of the world. Dick, can you tell me, let's first start off. I hear all sorts of crazy things. Are these true?
You mean the myths about being 8A certified?
Yes, sir.
None of them are true. For example, one of the myths is that you have to be in business for 2 years. You can be certified if you started the business this morning. Okay. Another myth is that white women and other non-designated groups can't be certified. Well, if that's true, then we've certified almost 10,000 non-minority women, or service-disabled veterans who are non-minorities can't be certified. We certified virtually all of them. You can't be financially well off. Well, we've often certified multimillionaires. You have to know what those financial metrics are. Let me share them all real quickly. The applicant individual's personal net worth has to be less than $750,000, but that excludes a few important things like the value of the business, the value of the home, and the value of any IRA and 401 type retirement funds. You can't own a business in a trust. That's not true. As long as you control the trust, you can be the applicant for 8A certifications. The majority of applicants get rejected. That's true. 90% of the applicants for 8A certification get rejected. Okay, so that's important to get professional assistance in being able to prepare a cogent 8A application. And obviously there are services out there for which are for free. You know what you get for free in life, and there are professionals out there who can help you be certified. So there's many myths about being 8A certified, and unfortunately, they keep the population small. But the principal advantage of being certified is that it essentially eliminates your competition. Suppose you went to work and you got an email that says all of your competitors just died. Okay, would you be, other than maybe going to their wake, you'd be fairly happy. So if you can be in an area or through a certification such that you are limiting your competition, I don't think you can eliminate it, then you're in a much improved posture. I just checked yesterday to see how many 8A certified companies there are in the United States. There's about 6,500. 6,500. So your competition, everything from soup to nuts, is only 6,500. It's not 65,000. It's not 650,000. It's 6,500 companies, and that's from everything from soup to nuts. So there's so forth. You can get sole source contracts without competing for anybody. You're reducing your competition by 99%. The important thing about getting business is getting it in your lifetime. You can, using the 8A process and other similar certifications, you can decrease the amount of time to get a contract from 12 months or more to about 30 days. That's an important thing. So in other words, you can be planning on having a meal at 30 days. 8A certifications do not allow for sore loser protests. In major competitive procurements, there's always somebody who thinks that somebody cheated, so they throw in what they call a sore loser protest. You cannot protest an 8A certification, an 8A contract, except for the qualifications of the 8A itself. Okay, wow. 8A contracts are typically 4 times larger. Listen carefully, 4 times larger than the average small business. So we're not talking peanuts. So even though the sole source limitations are around 4 million and 6 million for manufacturing, you can get what is called 8A set-asides in the hundreds of millions of dollars. You're talking to somebody who got several contracts for hundreds of millions of dollars. And the beauty of it is that you have people who are going to help you do your marketing. Who are those people? The Fortune 500 are those people. They're going to bring you business because they are looking at huge opportunities themselves in a market which is unavailable to them. And through a process which was started at the SBA years ago, called the Mentor Protege Program, you can actually have a large company find the business opportunity, introduce you to the client, write the proposal. They're not doing this because they're a pure heart and have no malice intent, because they are eligible to receive up to 60% of the value of that contract. So you in essence have a built-in marketing arm, large company with lots of shoe leather who can be out there looking for business opportunities for you. If in fact you, for example, AA certified and you form a mentor protege program with IBM or Lockheed Martin or General Motors or any one of the large companies in the United States. So there's lots of myths about being AA certified. The truth of the matter is that the wealthiest minority companies in the United States, 90% of them all had their start in the 8A program. How do you like that?
Wow. Wow, that's fantastic. And tell me about the Hubzone. I hear about that. What is that? What does that mean?
Hubzone stands for HUB, Historically Underutilized Business Zone. That means that it's another set-aside program which provides for sole source contracts as well, not non-competitive contracts. It's not as lucrative as the 8A program in terms of dollars. You know, somebody once asked Willie, the guy who robbed the banks, why he robbed banks, and he says that's where they keep the money. And that's the same thing about the Hubzone program. The 8A program is the Mercedes-Benz of all certifications. That certification has been around for almost 50 years. The federal government buyers know how to use that. They prefer it because it's simple to use. But the Hubzone program was invented maybe about 20 years ago. It's similar to the 8A. You do not have to be socially or economically disadvantaged. That's the beauty of it. For 8A, you must be socially and economically disadvantaged. Hubzones, you don't have to be. However, there are certain restrictions. A huge percentage, 35% of your workforce must reside in a Hubzone. You must have an office, not necessarily your headquarters, located in the Hubzone. A Hubzone is a census tract which you probably don't want to live in because the average wages are 75% or less than the national average, and the unemployment rate is 125% or more of the central of the. So it was a program established to help distressed areas a long time ago. Okay, so that's the Hubzone program. It is a very important program as well. So we do those certifications as well. The federal government is the largest. Remember, the federal government is the largest largest market for everybody in the whole United States, especially when I'm looking at numbers like $3.5 trillion, you know, or even $1.5 trillion. That's still a big market and so forth. Federal government spends over $100 billion a year on contracting. So there's plenty of money to be had. And if you're in an 8A, you're in a very acute position because you only have 6,000 competitors at the most, because those people are everything from soup to nuts. If you're in the IT business or the management consulting business or the construction business, those are the three major marketplaces for 8As. Although there's, we service all of the 8As. About 20% of them is anything you can imagine are 8A companies, and they're doing business with federal agencies. Okay, you can do business across the entire country, so you're not limited to doing business in New York State. You can do business in any state and territory of the United States. So it's these are programs which are available. The 8A program is the most difficult one to get, but that's the reason is because it's the Mercedes-Benz of all certifications. There's more money spent for 8As than there is for all the other certifications put together. So that's where the money is.
Wow.
So
having this great, so thank you. You guys have laid out this wonderful foundation of certifications, and you know, I hear things that might be applicable to me and maybe not. And so can you all help me understand, you know, about the eligibility? Does my business really fit? What are the things I need to consider?
Sorry,
for the 8A, for the Hubzone program, for the 8A program, each one of them has different criteria. So you have to speak specifically about different programs.
Okay.
You must be socially and economically disadvantaged. As I've already mentioned, that doesn't mean that you're poor. Your personal assets can be $6 million. Your net worth after eliminating a bunch of things has to be less than $750,000. And your 3 years of your adjusted gross income, which is a number that appears on your taxes for you tax wonks, must have averaged less than $350,000 over the last 3 years. So you don't have to actually be poor in order to participate in these programs.
I got it.
There are no economic disadvantage limitations for the Hubzone, for example. Now, having said that, your company must exhibit what they call a positive potential for success. So the 8A program is not designed for pure startups. It's designed for people who have at least had a business for a little bit of time, or at least can show that they have a huge potential for success. So your company financials are one of the areas that the SBA looks at most closely to make sure that the company exhibits positive equity, positive working capital, positive profitability at the time that you apply. You must be a real company. So you have to have, if you're a corporation, you have to be able to show that you have stock certificates, stock ledgers, bylaws, minutes, electing the officers of the company, and so forth. So you must be able to work independent of other companies. You cannot be a front. In other words, being controlled by somebody else. So the SBA is very fussy about ensuring that there's no way for any other party other than the applicant individual or individuals having total unconditional control over the business. So there are many reasons why people don't get certified, but most of them are remediable. Okay.
Got it. And how about on the third party side, Heather?
Private sector
tell me
side.
about.
So some of it's similar and some of it's different, right? So as far as the ownership is concerned, so I didn't hear Dick say this, but Dick is definitely the company we also refer to for all 8A needs. There's nobody better, as you can see, than him for 8A certification. But for the private sector, we're the best. And here's why. So the ownership has to be 51% or more owned, operated, and controlled by the diverse demographic that we're certifying. And you can't mix and match. So let's say we're talking about an LGBT-owned company. The company has to be 51% or more owned by a person or people who are part of the LGBTQ community. Now that's pretty easy, check or no check. However, the one thing to keep in mind is that these organizations do look at total shares. So if you have non-voting and voting shares, you have to have 51% of total shares as well as 51% of the voting shares as well. The next is operation. The LGBT person or people must be running the company on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't have to be that same person that owns the company. It can be someone totally different as long as they're also of that same demographic. And they have to have the highest ranking title per the governing documents. And we're going to do a little test in just a second to see if everybody knows. Tell me if you guys can put in the chat, and I don't know who's monitoring the chat, Rob. Is it Chris?
It's Chris.
Chris, I'm going to ask a question. Are you ready to say what we got here? Everybody put in the chat what the highest ranking title is in most bylaws, in most corporations. What is the highest ranking title in most corporations per the majority of bylaws that are out there?
All right, so people, if you can remember, use that little chat feature in there and go ahead and type in your answer, and we'll give you another 15 seconds or so, and then Chris will read us back what he sees. And
yeah, I see some coming in now. I see a couple CEOs, a president.
Yep.
Anything else?
CEO.
Right. So this is why we do this, Chris, because actually in most bylaws, because I don't care if you paid $6 an hour or $600 an hour, attorneys use the same templates. And that means, and most of the time, the president is the highest ranking title in a corporation, which is fine as long as the person, the demographic we're certifying is the president. If they're not, it is actually one of the biggest reasons for denials in these third-party private sector certifications is the title. So I don't care if you want to be Queen of the Unicorns, as long as your bylaws say that Queen of the Unicorns is the highest ranking title, have at it. But that's one of the things that we check over here at Certify My Company are those titles and if they matches all the way through your application. The next is control. Per those same governing documents, so bylaws for a corporation and an operating agreement for an LLC. Sometimes it's a member agreement. Sometimes it's partnerships agreement if you have a partnership. The diverse person or people have to have the ultimate control of the decision making. That means you can't have a lot of unanimous votes. You can't have any unanimous votes if you have a mixed ownership or a mixed managerial staff, whatever it is. So you have to really know what you're looking at as far as the control of the company. And the last one, which Dick mentioned, and most people actually leave out, so kudos, Dick, for bringing that up, is that you cannot rely on any so if you're getting the LGBT certification, non-LGBT owned companies for essential resources. What does that mean? It could be people. You can't just borrow your buddies or your friends' employees because you need a couple people, or you can't just say I'm a printing company, I'm just going to use my dad's printer. No, you have to own your own, because if they decide they don't like you anymore and they want to cut you off, well, now you don't have a business anymore. So you have to make sure you are independently able to run without the essential resources of other companies. That does not mean you can't lease from a non-diverse owned company. Does not mean you can't rent or have other PEO agreements, whatever it is. You just have to have actual agreements to protect yourself.
I got it. Wow, that's awesome. So let's talk about the process.
So we talked about this a little bit, and Dick, it might vary a little bit different from the 8A. And one of the reasons we don't like 8A over here is because it changes like daily. So I let Dick stay on top of those daily changes of rules and regulations over there at the 8A. So they're going to ask about general company information: when you were founded, why you started your company, who's in charge of information, the tax ID, the general information about your company. Then the ownership information: who owns it? Is there a trust involved? Do you own it directly? Are there multiple levels? Right now I have a client who the company we're certifying is owned by a holding company who's owned by 2 holding companies, and this holding company is owned by 3 trusts. So it's complicated, right? But it's important to make sure that you meet the criteria all the way up, all the way through the hierarchy of the ownership. Management information: who is running the company on a day-to-day basis? We just talked about that CEO versus president. What are the titles of those individuals? Where are your office or offices located? Do you have real estate leases? Are they all home offices? If you do have actual offices, are you just kind of a squatter, or do you have an actual legal lease about it? Those are all very pertinent pieces of information. Then your references. Who are you doing business with? This is what you do not have to, as Dick said, the same with the private sector certification. You do not have to be in business for any amount of time. The day you start your business, you can apply for certification, but they do want to see you have some sort of business happening, meaning at least one client. So if you start your business with a client, you're golden, right? But you have to be able to share at least one reference. And then banking information, and then the documentation. And that is the part that most people look at and their eyes glaze over and they roll back in their heads and they're like, I don't even know what those documents are called. And so it's important that you make sure you upload the proper documentation, because it is, again, one of the biggest reasons for denial is because the documentation is inaccurate or incomplete.
Got it. And Dick, is the 8A process similar?
Yes, it's very similar. The SBA would rather that you have some amount of time in business, but as I said previously, you can be certified if you started the business this morning, but you need what is called a waiver. And one of the conditions that the waiver requires is at least 2 clients, and neither of those 2 clients can be dominant in terms of the percentage of revenue, because otherwise the SBA would see that as being a lack of control. In other words, if 90% of your business come from a single client and they sneeze, you're out of business. Or if they don't like you, you're out of business. So that would be over dependence on a particular client. So there are unique conditions for 8A, and I couldn't agree more. The amount of paperwork is astronomical. In fact, I'm having a discussion with the SBA administrator to see how we can cut that down, because that's a major inhibiting factor. And sometimes the people get, a lot of our clients get denied, or at least questioned initially, because the paperwork is not perfect. And not every small business has to run their company like IBM,
Right.
So and most small companies don't do that. They can't afford Price Waterhouse as their outside auditors.
Yep.
And stuff like that. So there's many reasons why the corporate governance documents, which is what we've been talking about, the bylaws and what have you. For example, if the bylaws of a corporation have super majority voting, in other words, you need 2/3, or even show majority voting, they will be rejected, because that's an indication of lack of control. So God is in the details when it comes to some of these certifications.
I got you.
Professional assistance is important.
I got you. And so, governing documents could be one reason why people get denied, right?
It's probably one of the biggest
Absolutely.
reasons, them and the trusts. Those are the 2 biggest reasons, at least for the third-party certification, the private sector certifications, why people are denied.
Wow. Well, I can't thank you all enough. This has been awesome. I want to make sure I get some time to get some folks' questions answered. And, I guess before we go to the questions, I just want to talk about this impact, right? We know that there's 23 plus million companies out there that are XBEs, and yet only 1% of them are currently certified to the private sector. And as you heard Dick just describe, there was 200,000%. I mean, this is just a small number that's actually certified today. So this is a great opportunity. I know businesses are looking for this. In 2016, this is a statistic I love to go to. In 2016, the buying power of just the Hispanic community was greater than the gross domestic product of Mexico. I mean, that is amazing, absolutely amazing, the buying power. And so, organizations, corporations today recognize that they want their internal folks and their suppliers to mirror the communities in which they work, live, and play. So, to that extent, I would love to hear your questions. I got a panel of experts who would love to hear what you've got. So if you could go ahead in your chat window there and go ahead and type in some questions, and let's have at it. Christopher.
Yeah, first question is, I feel like the supplier diversity people just ask us to register in supplier diversity portals, and they are like a black hole.
Oh, we love that question. That's actually not a question. State that if this was Jeopardy, you would have lost. That's not a question. But we love that comment because we get it all the time. And I think Liz and I both have very similar perspectives on it. But here's kind of what it is, right? It's like when you're dating somebody. You don't just give it all up right away. You have to make sure that someone really wants to go out with you. So you have to put them through a little bit of a test to get there, right? Usually what happens is you go to a conference like, hi, I'm Heather. This is what I do. This is why I'm amazing and why you should hire me and what I could do for you, right? Oh, by the way, I'm WeBank and Disability and certified. And then they go, oh, are you registered on our portal? If I say no, did I really want to work with them? Did I come to the conference prepared to court them? So that's one thing to do. Plus, again, you are dealing with one, maybe a few of these supplier diversity managers. They are dealing with hundreds, if not thousands of suppliers. So this is another way, like, do they really want to do business with me, or are they just coming up to every corporation that's here? So it is important to register on the portals. Do you throw spaghetti in the wall and just register with everybody? Absolutely not. You have to be strategic because, again, you could spend your whole life and your whole bank account, especially if you're outsourcing it to a company like Certify My Company, to do your registrations, right? You definitely don't want to just be throwing spaghetti on the wall. You want to know who you want to do business with, who you are doing business with. It can be a black hole, and some corporations are more guilty than others of it being a black hole.
Awesome.
But what it comes down to is the relationship, okay? And if they remember you and you've said, yes, I'm in your portal, what else can I send you? How can I follow up with you? You are that step closer. If you say no, well, that's just a reason for them to push you off just a little bit longer.
I
Did I miss anything, Liz? Liz, did I miss any of that? Any information there?
No, absolutely not. In fact, the conference I was just talking about, when I got back, I have a card for a supplier diversity person, but before I email them, I am going to register in the portal.
Yes.
Just so, because I know they're going to ask. So it's like the first thing I do. I registered in your portal. What's next?
Yes.
I love that. That is a great tip. Thank you for sharing that. Christopher, what else do we have?
Yeah, second question. I hear a lot about capability statements. How important are they?
You take it, Liz. You got this one.
All right.
Short answer
Heather,
is, though, very important.
yeah. I know, exactly. Long story short, they're very important. So your capability statement, and if you don't know what that is, it is a one-pager on your business, which talks about what you can do, what differentiates you, and your past performance. It has to be visually appealing and accurately convey what your business does. Because again, the supplier diversity person, in many cases, is going to be your advocate. So this is your calling card, not only that they can use to see if, okay, do we want to move forward with this person, but it's a piece of paper that they can then show to the other people in their company, right? So when they are explaining your company, you want them to have the best information. So they're really important. Heather and I work on this all the time. I think it's one of, once you get what you do and your differentiators down, You want to put those in your capability statement because that's what's going to make you stand out in the sea of diverse suppliers.
I love it. Thank you so much. We have 1 minute left and I want to be respectful of time, but Chris, let's see if we can't squeeze in one last question and then we'll get some housekeeping and get folks on their way.
Perfect. Yep. Last question. The scholarships and programs you mentioned are nice, but do they really lead to new business opportunities?
Yes, is the short answer. We want to tell them your Ernst & Young mentorship program, Liz, that you have for that one supplier. You want to do the capability statements or whatever it was?
I'm not exactly sure which one you're talking about, but I'll talk about another one, which is
Okay.
So one of my clients actually went to it's a Share the Green program. So it was like Waste Management Share the Green, and they went through it. They actually were selected. So there was like thousands of people who applied. They were selected. Then they got selected to do a pitch. So they did a pitch competition. And on the basis of that, they're selected to actually have a one-on-one mentor protege kind of relationship with another company. So initially my client had been like, like I spent so much work, I go to so many like educational things. I don't think I need this one. And by the end of it, she's like, it's the best thing I could have done for my business. So and the benefits are still carrying through. She has a whole other executive program that she's going through. So I think it can definitely be beneficial. And as Heather said, you just have to narrow it down. You can't do everything. You can't do everything all at once, but focus on the companies and the opportunities that are really going to work for you.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much. If you have asked a question and you haven't gotten an answer, we are going to get those back to you in writing. So thank you all for your questions. I can't thank you all enough for your time, for hanging in there. This has been super exciting. I love the things that we've got to share today. Again, you're listening to XBE Thrive, sponsored by the Diversity Consortium. Our next Thrive event, we're going to talk about the 10 biggest challenges for XBEs. That's on October 28th. And you might remember that we've got micro sessions, which are a little bit deeper dive on these various subjects, and we'll do these every month. If you'd like to learn more, please see our website, which is right down there at the bottom left. It's thediversityconsortium.com. There is my mobile number and my email address. And again, the addresses of Heather, Dick, and Liz. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. And I do wish you a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.